Okay, everybody, it's just about 1 o'clock. We'll go ahead and get started. First off, Happy New Year. Great to be here with you. I'm so pleased to see so many people with the cameras on, and I hope you guys are staying warm. I hope you are enjoying, the snow as much as possible. Um, it was a bit intense, but hopefully we're all doing okay. So we'll just give people a few more minutes to log on. Gonna go ahead and open up like kind of a little icebreaker activity. It's a locked code. You got to crack the code. So we'll give like just a few more minutes. There's still a lot of people joining. So just take a few moments, try to crack the code. I'll give the answer in a few moments. All right, welcome to those of you who just joined us. We'll just give it a couple moments. But right now you can see on the screen a little code breaking activity. I could see Ms. Jones in the chat said that she did the same activity with her students, and some of them hated it, and some of them enjoyed it, which that tracks, right? Yeah, welcome everybody again who just joined. We've got like five more people in the past minute. There's like a little activity on the screen just to get us started, kind of get your brain working. But we'll get started with our actual session in just a couple minutes. If anybody wants to come off mute, how was your break? How's everything? How was winter break?
Can you hear me? Mr. R, you can't hear me, can you? Can anybody hear me?
Oh, Miss Hike, I
Yeah,
can't
I
hear
can
you.
hear
Oh
you.
no. Hold on 1 second.
Yes, we could hear
I can
you.
hear
Yes,
you.
yes,
We
I
could.
can hear you.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Now I got you. I can hear you. Thank you. Now I fixed my own audio. Okay, everybody. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good to have you here. We will go ahead and get started now. The answer is not 601. It is in fact 042, but don't feel bad, Mr. Montalez. I used Copilot to verify that I in fact did get it wrong at first as well. This is a good little puzzle. And Miss Smith Jones at Paseo, she said she did this activity with her students and that some enjoyed it and some didn't enjoy it. But Miss Smith, would you mind kind of just speaking to that experience? Like what was that really like for your kids and how did you use it?
Sure, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, or I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, we use this like the first week of school. We're really trying to get kids to think outside the box and really move from dependent to independent learners. So we gave them things that didn't necessarily involve a lot of math, but really required them to think a lot. Some kids, as soon as they saw it, they were ready to give up. Some kids were like, "Don't tell me the answer. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it." So, and it was interesting because sometimes we give these tasks and we think, "Oh, only the advanced kids are gonna get this," but actually, sometimes the below basic or the basic kids are the ones who are willing to try the most on difficult tasks. So it was good.
Absolutely love that. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, this is accessible. Did you have any collaboration with this, or did you just kind of give the task for individual students?
We allowed them to work in groups, I believe. It's been like 4 months, so I don't exactly remember, but we had given them several thinking tasks like this throughout the week. So this wasn't the first one they had. They kind of knew, like, when they came in, okay, we're going to get another task today that we have to think through. So they were kind of primed already.
Love that. And it's actually so fun. These types of things are a great low stakes way to get kids thinking, especially after a prolonged break like we've just coming out of. This might be something that you would consider. And I have like many more of these types of math puzzles, and I'll share those out in the weekly update. With that all being said, thank you everybody for participating. Give it a try. And we can talk more about it as we go here. So happy New Year, you guys, 2025. It sounds like so futuristic to me. It really does. Like just the year 2025. It's amazing that we're here, and I'm just excited to be with you all and continue our work together. So our norms are real brief, and we'll just kind of get into them real quick. And those are: be attentive, ask questions, and mute your microphone. We've been doing this Zoom stuff for quite a while, but I was just in a meeting a couple moments ago, and I didn't realize I had Zoom open on two tabs by mistake, and I muted one of them and didn't mute the other, and it was decidedly awkward. But so those are the norms, and those norms will certainly inform our agenda. Full disclosure, I had a lot more planned, but due to the fact that we're online, it's super cold out. I pared it down quite a bit. And so these are the things we're going to discuss today. First, we're just going to go over some quick curriculum updates, maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, real brief. And then we'll talk about urgency in the classroom. That'll be more of like a whole group discussion is my hope. So I'm really hoping that we will be able to share out in the chat and off mute. And then finally, we are fortunate to have our director of mathematics from DESE, Director Tracy Gardner, is on the call, and she is going to talk to us about the MITs. And also, like if you'd like to, Tracy, just come off mute for a second, say hello, and maybe you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Tracy Gardner here. I am the new director of mathematics. I started in very end of June, so beginning of July. So I may or may not have seen you in person. So I'm excited to come and share with you guys today about the instructional testlets that are new coming from DESE. So, and any other questions you have while I'm here, you have me. So feel free to throw those my way as well.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And I'll also say Director Gardner has been kind enough to offer to come back. So hopefully, if there's any outstanding questions, we can hear from her again. But anyway, go ahead to dive right into the curriculum updates. The curriculum updates are as follows. So the first thing is with this week kind of being a little strange, who knows what's actually going to happen tomorrow or Wednesday, but conclude quarterly testing this week. There are constructed response items that need to be scored on the 6th and the 7th grade assessment. Those need to be hand scored. I've reached out individually to those teachers, but if you need any help with that, please let me know. If you feel like you're underwater and need somebody to grade them for you, I can do that. But if you're just struggling to use the system, the Illuminate system, please let me know and I can help. The quarterly test that again should conclude by this Friday should be entered as a student proficiency grade. And finally, all grades will be due on January 15th. Now, a caveat on that is if we have any more snow days in the interim, things may get moved around. So, of course, just like always, we're going to need to be adaptable, which is pretty standard, right, in our line of work. Moving on. So this is probably the biggest piece of news that I think many people will be intrigued by, and that's going to be that we're going to be developing I'm already started the development of an advanced math 6 and advanced math 7 curriculum. So this will be in the course catalog for your registrars, and there'll be more information to school leadership about this, or directly to school leadership, as it gets ironed out. But effectively, what this is going to look like is that students who are enrolled in Math 6, sixth grade math, will have the opportunity to take sixth grade math and half of seventh grade math in one school year. And then in their seventh grade year, we'll do the remaining part of the seventh grade standards, as well as all of the eighth grade standards in seventh grade, thus preparing them for Algebra 1. So if you don't have sixth grade at your school, if you're a middle school site, there'll still be an advanced Math 7 course available for you. I know it's already in the course catalog, but there will be some more significant resources and details and a quarterly map built out. If you're in elementary school and you only have sixth grade, similarly, there will be an advanced Math 6 curriculum built out with, all the requisite things, like assessments, resources, materials, and also the pacing, such that your kids will be ready on track for Algebra 1 in eighth grade. So that's one huge update. It's a pretty big project. So I'm just getting started, but there will be a workshop this summer, paid workshop for teachers to build out the curriculum, to review the curriculum, to finalize the curriculum. So it's available for August. And like I said, if there are any questions, please don't just, type in the chat or just come off mute. Let me know. But if there are no questions, we'll go ahead and move on to the next thing. Is kind of, a significant challenge. We'll be wrapping up quarter 2 content because we are, as you guys know, quarter 2 is always so funky with the end of the quarter falling right after winter break. So if there are snow days tomorrow or Wednesday, just due to the temperature, due to the roads, then the testing window may be extended. I have no more information than that, other than it may be extended. And if you feel like you are behind on the quarter 2 content, so reasonable, it happens. Please don't skip ahead to quarter 3. Instead, please reach out to me directly via email, or just stay on the call, or just, put a message in the chat box that you'd like me to connect with you, because we would need to condense skills, lessons, etc., to make sure that we can cover the highly tested content in the second quarter. So just to reiterate, please do not skip any missed quarter 2 content. Finish quarter 2, then start on quarter 3, which begins, I believe, on January 13th. So yeah, that pretty much, wraps that part up. But again, if you have questions, let me know. Alrighty. So final thing that I will plug is that we will have an upcoming after school PD that's going to be on January 13th, next Monday, from 3 to 5:30 p.m. at the Board of Education office. If anybody wants to come to that, it's called Long-Term Planning for Semester 2. And it's also a Math 6-8 community meeting. This is a paid experience. This is a paid thing. If you want to come and join us via Zoom, that's fine. If you would like to be in person, we have, nice coffee beverages and a soda fountain, maybe some snacks. But please let me know if you want to join, or you can sign up in My Learning Plan. So I think that pretty much concludes the curriculum updates. Are there any questions at this time about any of that? All righty, cool. So we'll move on now to just urgency in the Math 6-8 classroom. So basically, I'm just going to put a discussion prompt or a question on the board. I'm still a teacher, I'm going to put a discussion prompt on the screen, and I would invite you to reply via chat, or feel free to come off mute. That would be so welcome. So what I'm talking about when I talk about urgency in the classroom, I'd like to kind of crowdsource. So in person, this was going to be a think, ink, pair, share, which is like a Kagan strategy. But on Zoom, we're going to pivot as usual, and we're just going to type into the chat box. All right, so what does urgency look like in your classroom? So we got 37 participants, so a lot of people who've got a lot to share. Yeah, please feel free at this time. So what does urgency look like in your classroom?
I personally think that urgency in the classroom is ensuring that all of the kids are on the same page, not moving on until everybody understands the concept that we are currently working on. Because if one person gets left behind in, module 2, but we try to move on to module 3, well, now they're confused and they're stressed about what they missed in module 2, so they're not even focusing on what's going on in module 3.
Awesome. Thank you, Bree.
I think a big part of urgency is using timers. I know Arjun has seen this in my classroom, but I set timers for pretty much any problem that they're about to do. And I say, okay, you're going to have a minute to 2 minutes to get this done. And at the end of that 1 to 2 minutes, we talk about it and we move on. I want to make sure that every student understands. And during that 1 minute or 2 minutes, I rotate around the classroom. But sticking to that schedule really helps create that urgency of moving on and making sure that kids aren't wasting time.
Thank you, Alanis.
Hi, Alanis. What timers are you using to do that? I would love to do that, but I haven't found any good timers yet.
Yeah, do you have the Samsung interactive board?
Yeah, the one screen.
Okay. Yes. So on the side, there's a little like arrow. And if you click that and you click more, there is a timer option that you can put on the board.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
Mhm.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
Thank you. Urgency in my math intervention class is just about like everybody else is talking about. I don't want to leave anybody behind, but yet I have admin going, aren't you done with ratios yet? And it's like, wait a minute, and then you've got, I don't know, there's so many parts to what I'm pulling off of iReady like I'm supposed to do for intervention that I think a lot of people don't realize that. And so I feel kind of pulled in multiple directions.
Totally hear that. There's a lot of really good stuff going on in the chat box. And so I would encourage you guys to all review what our colleagues have said, and you can drop a reaction onto it, and we can kind of highlight some of the most commonly reacted things. But I would also really love to hear from Mr. Al. Would you mind sharing a little bit more about what you meant with like working with purpose from the student perspective, but then also the your own perspective?
Yeah, so within my classroom, it's a Montessori, so 4 through 6. And a lot of it is kind of like student choice. And so urgency, like there's students that they feel like they can move away from the material and just do everything on paper, but really having them realize, like if they're working on like multiplying decimals, they think that they should be able to do that on paper, but they still need to use the material. And like the urgency there is realizing, okay, I have so many problems that I need to do to show that I'm understanding this, working towards mastery. And there's some students that they will elect to do 10 problems within 3 days, which doesn't sound like a lot, but having to do everything hands-on, it does take a lot of time. Versus other students that they'll say, well, I'll do 10 problems, but I'll do it over a week, and just seeing how they go about like taking charge of their own learning in that aspect. And then from my perspective, like bringing it into like iReady data, seeing like, okay, well, I have a lot of students that need help with fractions. Okay, well, I taught this student fractions 6 weeks ago, and they've progressed through a couple lessons, but they're not getting certain aspects of it. So I can kind of manipulate the Montessori way into a traditional way and kind of blend the two. That way they'll hopefully see it and show that they have some mastery building out from there.
Thank you, Mr. Al. Appreciate that. Reading through some of these comments, one of the things that's a common theme is bell-to-bell teaching. Brenna, you wrote being intentional with every instructional moment. How does that look like before you're actually doing instruction? Before your kids are in front of you, how does your intention inform what happens? Kind of how do you think through that process?
I think it goes to intentional planning, just like knowing what I'm teaching that day, what I expect from kids, and then making sure, from day one, like just communicating those procedures and expectations to students so they know the routines. So like students know the purpose of RTI. It's not just like busy work, or it's not just like iReady time. And they understand that like their RTI time is also time for them to get multiple chances to review content that they didn't understand. Because unfortunately, like I don't have time to wait until everybody is showing like mastery on a standard before moving forward. So like explaining to kids like it's okay if you need more practice, like this is the time we get that more practice. And just like making sure also that I'm planned out to provide students opportunities to engage with that material that they need more practice with. And I know what I'm teaching that day, like explicitly.
Absolutely. And that really circles to me, it makes me think about the internalization process. I mean, we share so much as teachers, I'm doing a great lesson and I hand it to a teacher next door. And if they are teaching it for the first time, it's really important that they internalize it, make it their own way before they're executing it in front of their students. And then finally, Miss Hefner is going to hate this, but Savannah, would you mind kind of just speaking to what you meant by this is just such a great answer? And then you've got 6 positive reactions on that. So would you mind just kind of speaking to that a little bit more?
I forgot what I said. Hold on.
You wrote urgency is not
It's
about
it.
rushing through. Oh, go ahead.
But creating an environment where I feel like a lot of it for me is just having kids engaged and building those relationships with kids so that when they come in, they're ready to learn and excited to learn. And that, I don't know what else to say. That was my thought process though. Because like when they come in, they're like, oh, I want to work because I like you as a teacher when you have that good relationship with them.
Kind of sounds like the urgency is actually stemming from the relationships you have with kids.
Yeah.
And then just to circle to Miss Coach Mack's question, she asked, is this about like day-to-day urgency in the classroom, or is this about staying on pace with the curriculum? I mean, in my opinion, like the urgency in that day-to-day informs staying in pace on the classroom, but I really mean more classroom vibe. And as a follow-up, she asked how many of our classrooms are block scheduling. Only Lincoln and FLA are not on block scheduling for the middle school environment, and then the elementary environments have about an hour a day. So I guess it's more like block. Does anybody else want to kind of chime in on urgency? I've got another kind of discussion prompt related to that. How do we encourage students to have urgency in their learning?
I wanted to ask a question there because I all of the peoples that have talked, I'm not sure where they're from or where they're teaching to, because I have the same question Aaron had, like how many of these classrooms are block scheduling? And all of the ideas sounded really great to me, and all of that applies. And I'm thinking, well, how do I get my kids who came from doing minimal work last hour, and for example, in social studies, and their block for 7th and 8th grade to come in here and like get the urgency part? Because I think we're all for the most part, all the math teachers, we teach with a sense of urgency anyway, because we have to. But I wondered if anybody had anything that they did specifically, or if they were in the same kind of setup that they have something that's working. Because my kids will still drag their feet every single day.
I think for me, what helps is that I have a do now and exit ticket every single day. And I know some of the teachers in my school don't have one every single day, but I feel like that helps with them, and they're graded too. So it's like, oh, I know she's gonna stay on top of the grading and put it in the grade book. So that's what helps me at least.
Also, Ms. Gilson, you're getting some responses in the chat box. I'll just go ahead and elevate those. This is Mr. Gowdy. I think looking long-term, showing them what they can do after their days as a student will encourage internal urgency. From there, it's a downhill battle. Yeah, I would totally agree that like thinking long-term, trying to get kids to believe that what they're doing in class is going to have a positive impact on their long-term outcomes in life. And I think we do that with like, inspiration and encouraging our kids. And I wonder why students are hesitant to do the work that we want them to do. Is it because they're like lazy and they don't want to work, or is it because they're afraid of failing? Don't know. Just a thought. And then finally, Miss Jones said, I think it's about building classroom culture from day one. Miss Fender is my hero for creating a no opt-out culture in the room. Kids know it's not an option. It's hard to explain exactly how it's created. It's really a relationship building thing. And then you've got some other ideas here about, other things. I would like to elevate something Director Gardner just shared. This is something that I cut from our PD because we're not in person, but we will revisit this in February. This is a great website called Practice Driven PD. I highly encourage you to check that link out. And this one is called First Attempt. You can see it's like a one pager. It's like a PDF one pager that describes the strategy. Director Gardner, if you feel like you have this internalized, would you mind just kind of explaining what we're looking at here? What does first attempt really mean?
Yeah, so I just noticed a couple things about some things people were saying, so I added a couple links into the chat box. This is the first one. So when we talk about intentionally like getting kids into a classroom and getting them focused and on task right away, right? We want kids, when I think of urgency, it's not as much that like we have to get this pacing done because my district says at this time, and it's not about leaving kids behind, but it's more about like that urgency and that like they know we're here for a purpose. Math has a purpose. We're learners, and like number one, how blessed are we to be able to learn for free in a place where, you know, everyone has access to this. Like we take advantage of our own ability to come and learn to school. Like I feel like kids in America sometimes need like a reality check about how many kids all over the globe would love to come to school every day and don't even have that as an option. Anyway, sorry. So First Attempt is a great way for kids to, instead of doing a bell ringer that might not always serve the purpose that we want, a lot of times bell ringers can be used more like busy work. First Attempt, however, is more of whatever the project or whatever my lesson is for the day, giving them a piece of that lesson beforehand, before I even teach, even if it's a brand new topic they've never seen before. I'm giving kids the opportunity to let them look at it. I'm letting them see it and try some things. I'm not expecting them to be perfect. I'm not expecting them to necessarily even be able to solve it correctly, but just to start that idea that like kids bring so much to the table. Our students, even our lowest students, even our most struggling students can look at a problem and bring something to the table. So helping them see how they get that attempt to like start to think about a problem, because then when we start our lesson, we teach our lesson, we show them all the things, then those light bulbs, they're already primed for hearing about the thing we're teaching today because they've already kind of gotten like a glimpse of it. So it's really great. And Dr. Sam Otten, who does Practice Driven PD, has some really great research that goes with this First Attempt with some really impressive effect sizes. So just changing kind of how we attack that bell ringer really does do some amazing things for our students.
Awesome. Love
And
that.
the second thing I shared is Productive Struggle in Mathematics. That book is amazing. For all of you who are talking about ways to like, a lot of it is about how we motivate our students and how we create this classroom where kids feel safe, where we can be wrong, where we can say wrong things, because then that really gets them involved in what is mathematics and how do we do this together. And the Productive Math Struggle book is amazing. I'm on chapter 6, I believe. And honestly, if I could have bought myself this book about 8 years ago, I would have loved it, because there are so many things about how to help kids just build that community where everyone is a mathematician, everyone brings something to the table. No, we're not always right, but math isn't about always being right. And then my last plug would be if some of you have read or heard of Mike Flynn. He's on YouTube, but he has a really great video about what it means to be good at math, and how Mr. Almendarez mentioned, you know, he has students who use manipulatives. Well, who said that being abstract was what made you good at math? Who said that just using an algorithm all the time is what makes you good at math? And we've created this understanding that it's like you have to get away from manipulatives and not use models. And if you're just using algorithms, well, golly, you're good at math. And so how do we change kids' ideas about what it means to be good at math? All right, I'm done.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you. Just to circle back really quickly to one thing Tracy just talked about was this first attempt in lieu of, you know, maybe something that is a review content for kids as their bell ringer or do now. Perhaps you give them something that they haven't yet had a lot of exposure to, and let them make a first attempt. So this website, Practice Driven PD, we will revisit this because I only recently found out about it. But if you go to Practice Driven PD and then hit instructional nudges, all of these are just like PDF one pagers Some of them are really easy to implement and have some strong effects baked in. So definitely something to review, and we will as a group look at that a little later. And then as it pertains to the book, I don't know, maybe we could do a book study. Let me talk to my supervisors to see if we can get some copies of this book, and we will, if anybody's interested, maybe we do a book study. Cool. Anyway, love that. And finally, just to wrap up about urgency, I think some of the people kind of described, some of the people in the chat, some of our fellows described, getting kids motivated. Miss Hefner has the let them cook environment. So everybody, and that comes, you don't just snap your fingers and have that environment where kids want to hear what other people have to say. You really have to be intentional about cultivating that. And I think she has done that. I'm going to go ahead and speak for my friend Savannah and say that she would welcome you into her classroom to observe. If you're interested, I can cover your class and you can pop over to her school and see her cook, as it were. And just to wrap up with Ms. Cox's idea, great idea, first attempt, is that you get students to connect before the teaching begins. I like this. Yeah, totally. Cool. So I know as classroom teachers, when did you feel a sense of urgency in your teaching? What triggered it, and how did it impact your students' learning? Does anybody care to answer that one real quick? No worries.
I'll work really quick.
Please go ahead, Keegan. Thank you.
Yeah. I found out a couple of weeks ago, one of my when we did the Illuminate diagnostics, one of my students was actually went down from down a grade level over the last quarter, and it sort of just made me realize that a lot of what I've been doing the first quarter in terms of scaffolding and stuff, and just sort of creating that environment for safe learning, was just not clearly enough, and it wasn't, or maybe it was enough, but it wasn't the right type of enough. And so for me, it was just sort of a really kind of a wake up call in terms of urgency, because I realized that I'd kind of spent a quarter not necessarily doing the right things. And so it really created a fast turnaround in terms of, okay, this is what I need to focus on for quarter three. And I need to act fast, and I need to, put solutions into play as fast as I'm sort of thinking of them. So yeah, it was sort of just to look at the diagnostic results and adapting from there.
Totally, for sure. Thank you for sharing. I feel like for me, what triggered that sense of urgency? It would be like, oh no, the test is coming up. Like the quarter test is coming up, or the state test is coming up. But if you're, looking down the barrel of a big test, it's frankly, I hate to say it, but it's like almost too late for you to now bring that sense of urgency. So it's certainly not too late for us now, meaning that we're in the middle of the school year. You can still bring that sense of urgency into your classroom and start fresh when we come back. So this quote resonates with me. I know you all have heard it. It's Nelson Mandela. He said, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world." And I really hold on to that. That's where my sense of urgency comes from. I don't think that zip codes or any part of socioeconomic status should create educational outcomes. I think it's really up to us to bring the urgency to our classroom, that what we're doing in our classrooms matters for our kids' lives. And their kids, they're not going to realize that. We have to really inspire them and motivate them to believe that working with them and getting them through the challenges is going to have an outcome. Or going to have a positive outcome for them. So teaching bell to bell for sure matters. I mean, the reason I bring up this whole thing about urgency is just that I know that district leadership is worried when they walk into teachers' classrooms in our middle schools and bell to bell instruction is not happening. So I just want to be transparent. It's not just math. It's all of the content areas. And I know that it's very difficult, but as you become more and more experienced, I think oftentimes, teachers will have like a backup plan or something in their back pocket that can be used to extend a lesson or go beyond. So those types of things are very important. Making every moment count and ensuring every student has the opportunity to succeed. It's giving them a vision of what their work might mean for their lives. So Yeah, you guys, thank you for participating in that discussion about urgency. If there are any final thoughts, please feel free to come off mute or to drop them in the chat. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and move on unless, like I said, there's extra thoughts that want to be expressed. Please feel free. And we're going to go into a 5-minute break, after which we're going to hear from Tracy, Director Gardner. So 5-minute break. Give me a thumbs up if that's cool with you, but we can also skip the break if people are down with that. Like, what are you guys feeling? Skip or take the break? Your call. Hearing 2 votes for skip. A lot of skip in the chat. All right, love that. We'll go ahead and skip our break then. And I'm on board. We're going to turn it over to Director Gardner. She's going to talk to us about the MITs. This is super, super interesting, and I'm really excited about it. And then I just saw in the chat box about the sign-in sheet. The sign-in and your attendance will be taken at the end of our session, so please make sure you are present until the end of our session. Thank you. All right. So, Director Gardner, I just gave you the hosting capabilities. Is it working here?
Oh, hey, there is. Okay, y'all have to be patient with me because the state does not use Zoom, so I gotta figure this out.
You're good. I can also just maintain the slides, and that
I
will be
can
fine.
figure it out. It just takes me a second. Okay, so once you're done sharing, then I can share. Is that what
Oh,
happens?
yeah, I guess so. Okay.
Okay.
It's all you.
Okay, I'm working on it. Sorry. Sorry, everyone. I promise I'm usually a little more with it.
You're fine. No worries.
It's one of those
Oh,
you get
Aaron, I
used
saw your
to.
question. You said, where did you get the slide template from? It's new. It's in Google Slides. They updated, they added a bunch of new templates. So, yeah,
Okay. So can everybody see that one?
it's working.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, fabulous. Okay, so you already know who I am, but the Missouri Instructional Testlets are our new thing. So I'm going to tell you guys about them. So the Missouri Instructional Testlets, or MITs, so that's the MITS MITs, are supplemental materials that allow teachers to evaluate students' progress toward the learning expectations and practices within the Missouri Learning Standards. They were created to be able to mirror in some ways what students will see in EOC and in the map. So there are very similar question types. They're on the same platform. So they log into DRC Insight for these. So it gives them a little bit of familiarity with that. And then they're all discrete items, though, that are focused on a specific standard that help teachers and students identify where they need to learn, like areas of learning and areas where we need more experience and understanding. So, oops. Let's see if I can get, okay. So, the testlets have no open window. They're open year round. There's no open and close. The State Department isn't like opening or closing that window at any time. There's also no specific order that any of these testlets can be given so that it allows flexibility with curriculum or pacing. So Kansas City Public might be in one spot. Someone down in Springfield might be somewhere else. So that allows them to assign any of the math testlets to any of their students at any time. There are also no grade level restrictions on any of these assessments, so they can be given above and below grade level. So you have kiddos who maybe are struggling in 6th grade and you're trying to figure out what they're struggling with. You can assign them 5th grade pieces or their testlets and then have that information and data available for you on a 5th grade standard to say, oh, okay, I think they're missing some of the previous year's learning. And you can then work forward from that. They're also not required. So DESE does not require them to be given. There are no accountability measures tied to any of these, but they are not a predictor and they are not scaled. So just know that this is not a scale score. It's not a prediction of how they're going to do on their grade level exam, none of those things. So your district testing coordinator has to put your students into that system. There's just one test ticket for all of the testlets, and then students use the same login and password every time. Student data is automatically scored, and it's available within 24 hours from the time that you give it. The performance events must be hand scored by the teachers. And you can see down in the bottom left, it tells you with which testlets in each grade level that require that hand scoring. So there's 3 in 6th grade, 3 in 7th grade, and 3 in 8th grade. So each of those testlets have a performance event very similar to what students will see in their grade level math test. And then just some things to consider is that if you trade those scorings across grade levels, that helps remove bias and explore expectations at different levels. So if I'm a 6th grade teacher, I might ask my 7th grade counterpart to do that hand scoring for me on my performance events, just to remove any bias I have. If I know Timmy's been working really hard and I know what he meant to do, that inserts some bias into my grading. So we want all of that just to be considerate and thinking of that as we do these. And then rubrics are provided for those. And then there will be a PDF available, but only to be used in special cases. We don't want these items to be readily available to anyone, meaning so they're not, I don't know how to say, they're not secure, but they are, how do you describe that? They're not secure, but they are kind of secure.
Can I chime in here? A lot of money goes into developing these
Yes,
test
exactly.
items. The state has a bank of thousands of the items, of course, but they don't release a lot. So we're lucky to get the ones we're about to go over here, but I guess we need to not share them.
Yes, exactly. So basically meaning when you're giving these, yes, there will be a PDF. However, do we want you to take pictures of the questions and put them on your Padlet? Or please don't do any of that, because the more you share them, then chances are the more they will get shared to other places. And then your ability to test kids on it and get really good data is going to decrease, because they also aren't meant to be, we don't want you to teach from these. The idea is not that you pull these and then you teach to these questions. So you get, so these are in DRC. So all of this is inside the DRC portal. And Arjun, if you could just let me know if there's other questions, I can stop halfway through it.
Yeah, most definitely. And then with regard to the DRC portal, more training and information coming on that. I know I am still learning. There is a lot to it. So I will be like the primary point of contact to get this, to assess these. I know Tracy, you said about the district testing coordinator needs to do that. I can do that for us. So.
Yes. So it just depends. Every district's kind of different. And we're working with DRC and with the district testing coordinators and superintendents to try to see if there's a way we could make like teacher versions where a teacher doesn't necessarily have access to like assigning the MAP test or the EOC test, but just to give teacher permissions and create teacher logins where teachers could just assign the testlets. So we haven't gotten there yet, but that's a conversation that we're working on as we try to make these as user-friendly as possible for teachers. So on this slide, I just kind of put down where these are and which testlets they are and what they have in them. And I have these slides available and I can share them with you as well. But you can see here that math for 6th grade has quite a few testlets. We have 12 total in here. So we have 5 that deal with ratios and proportional relationships. So you can see that right here we have the expectation code on the far right that tells you which standard that deals with. And then you can see right here on testlet 3, testlet 3 has that performance event. Oh my, what did I do? Sorry, try not to touch any buttons on my computer. And then as you can see, there's number sense and operations has 2 testlets, one of them including a performance event. And then there are the remaining of the testlets over expressions, equations, and inequalities. And then each of those stars, the star means that it's a priority standard. So you can see that almost all of our testlets that we've created also coordinate with a priority standard. 7th grade, not as many testlets. There are only 8 in 7th grade. 3 for ratios and proportional relationships, and 4 for expressions, inequalities, and equations, and then 1 for data analysis, statistics, and probability. 7th grade does have 2 of the performance events inside that expressions, equations, and inequalities, and there is not one for the data analysis. So whereas in 6th grade, we tried to make sure that the performance events kind of were spread across each of the different domains, there just wasn't one in that 7th grade domain. And then in 8th grade, there are 13 testlets. So you can see there's just a little bit of variation in the grades based on some of it was what items we had available in the item bank. That way we could make really good, robust testlets, but then also leave our banks intact if needed. So in 8th grade, we have expressions and inequalities, geometry and measurement, data, statistics and probability, and then functions. And you can see that we definitely have more of our priority standards or our performance events inside that on the 2 last testlets. So those are functions, knowing that those are really big things that lead into algebra. So those performance events are there. Okay, so do we have questions on that? I'm sure we do. So feel free to shoot them at me, or I don't know how to look at the chat box and
I've got you on the chat box, no problem. But there are
okay, I was
currently
gonna
no
say, I
questions.
don't know how to look at both. I either have the screen big or small. I'm sorry. I should.
So this is Stacy, Stacy Gilson. I have a question because I'm listening to this, but you made sure to emphasize this was not a predictor of how they'll do on the map test. So this
Yeah.
is just testing practice. Is that
Well, no, not
that in
necessarily
mathematics?
practice. It's more, and it's not just in math. So these are in ELA, math, and science. I would see them as a teacher, what I would use these or as my own checks. So if I know particularly that a group of my students generally doesn't do very well on a specific topic or domain, like functions, in 8th grade, I would give them one of those functions at the beginning of my assessment. Like before I even taught, I would give that and say, okay, what do we already know about them? What do we not know, as like a pre-assessment? You can give them as a post-assessment. You can give them as a pre-assessment. You can use them this is for you to inform your own teaching. We're trying to turn these, whereas state testing doesn't really help us change our instruction.
Right.
Right? We give them in May, April and May, and the kids are gone. We can't change how we've taught them.
Right. The
But
pacing
these
is
allow
already
you
set
to
for the
kind of
next time.
Yeah, so this allows you to give like these testlets aren't very long. They're like 8 to 10 questions. So it's like a quick little check that might be a little more rigorous than some of our curriculum. Not everyone's curriculum has really good rigorous assessments built into it. So this gives you really good high quality questions that you can ask your kids and have your kids take this assessment to really get a good idea of what they do know and what do we need to spend more time on. Or after you're done teaching, did we really gain the understanding that we needed to, or are there things we're still struggling with?
Okay. Next question. The Illuminate, which is what we use now for our modules and our district assessments, students can log in and see their progression, I would say, like how they did last time compared to now. Is this one time only? Like if they go in and take their assessment for functions, for example, one of the function standards, will they be able to retake that same thing, or is this
So there's no limit to how many times a kid can take any of the testlets.
okay? And then will they see their own data, or will it just be district reported and educator reported?
So it's just educator reported.
Okay. Thank you.
There's no reason why you as a teacher couldn't like sit down with them and be like, hey.
Oh, no. Yeah, no, I'm absolutely.
Yeah, and
get
pull
it.
all that up. And even like class-wide, if you had like a particular question. So here's where, we don't really want you guys sharing them far and wide, but like, let's say you gave one of the ones that has those performance events and your whole class really struggled. I would have no issue then at that point for you to look at that performance event, because you're going to be able to have that paper copy where you can pull it up and say, okay, let's look at this. How would we tackle it? And like work on that as like a project with your whole class, where you then get to talk about, okay, here's what it's asking. These are multi-step problems. I feel like performance events are difficult for kids because it really is a cognitive load process while also like multi-steps and reading carefully and thinking through what it's asking. So like how do we help our class then like as a whole use that as a teaching tool to like how do we persevere through a problem? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
You got another question here. The question is this available for Algebra 1 EOC?
So no, not yet. We are hoping to have Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and geometry questions, EOC available by the next school year. So we just don't have it yet. We have some item writing workshops coming up that are going to be pretty heavy on the EOC side. So we're hoping from that we'll have enough questions that we'll be able to start building those EOC assessments. However, for Algebra 1, I would say that a lot of the Algebra 1 standards are very similar to our 8th grade standards. So you can give your Algebra 1 students some of those 8th grade testlets to see how they're progressing in that knowledge of things that build off of that. So what do they already know about expressions, equations, and inequalities from 8th grade? And what do we need to know moving forward?
This isn't a question. I just really have more of an observation to make. So if you've been teaching in Missouri for anything longer than 3 or 2 years, you've seen the released items, right? Like you've seen that released item PDF that's out there. We have a, district answer key, et cetera. We've relied on that for a long time. So can you just quickly speak to like, I know you already have, but like, why is this an update to that? Why is this valuable? And maybe and maybe we could have a group discussion on like how we could use this.
Yeah. So really the idea behind this is two things. Our old practice test was old and outdated. We needed an update. So that's part of the reason why. Secondarily, some of the released items aren't always the best quality. Like some of the ones that are like, we call them the land of misfit toys. So those are ones that either are too hard, too easy, or will never be on their test. Those are somewhat different than these. So these are high quality items. These are items that could have been at any point been chosen for our test. They were just chosen for another purpose. So, and the idea behind this was really about how do we right? We have to give a state assessment. It's just part of the guidelines from the federal government. It was part of that legislation that there has to be this end of year test. So the downside to that is that teachers really feel like that test is so punitive because we don't get the data until it's too late. We can't change any of our teaching practices. So this was the state's response to like, how do we have really good questions that we could give to any kid across the whole state and really see how they're doing and allow teachers to give it and then have that time to like change their instruction. If I've given this testlet and I know my students did very poorly on it, I have time to change my instruction. We don't get that same ability when we have the state test. It's not flexible like that. And it's not meant for that, right? State tests aren't meant for teachers to be able to change our instruction. Those are a one picture in time where it just sorts kids. That's the whole intention of a state test, is to put kids in boxes according to ability at that one point in time. So really it was like our answer to how do we try to make a test that allows us to kind of have a statewide where there's some similarities across the whole state, but then also allows flexibility where teachers can really use them.
I would suggest one more benefit, and that is that it's going to give students more at-bats with the actual DRC Insight testing platform. There's been several questions that I've received about like, how do I access this? Or, what is DRC Insight platform? So yeah, we will have more training on that. This is certainly like a pilot year, and there will be no requirements from the case, like from KCPS that says like you have to use testlets. However, if this came out, 2 years ago when I was in the classroom, I would have been all over this just to give kids more opportunities to see what the testing platform looks like, to use test taking strategies. I would do a lot of different things with this. So I think that, I don't want to derail you, Tracy, but I would be curious what the group thinks. Like, how could we use this? I have the PDFs pulled up. I don't know if you have them, but it might be worthwhile to show what they look like, and of course we'll share those. But yeah, like how would you or how could you how do you envision using this?
I just noticed Brenna's comment. So very true, right? There wasn't really enough like chances to use it. And the other point is that these will also mirror a lot of those same questions. So it's not all just multiple choice. These will have, because it's on that portal, it'll have some drag and drops. It'll have some tech enhanced items. So they're not just multiple choice, they're multi-select, they're tech enhanced. So kids will have an option, an ability to kind of start to fiddle with those test taking pieces that maybe they're not familiar with.
Would you be able to use these as kind of like a kickoff to a new unit so they know what we're building towards?
Yeah, you totally could.
Cool. Okay.
And like small group work, totally. Like if you have kids that after you got done with a specific assessment or gave them a testlet at the end of a teaching time, I could totally see that being a time where you said, oh man, I have these 4 students who really didn't understand, a large portion of these standards, and that might be a time where they have small group instruction.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Other reasonable uses I think of could be you could assign these for homework, right? Like you could send a kid home with this. Is that accurate?
They'd have to be in the DRC portal, so I'm not sure how that works.
I mean, can they access DRC portal from like, home Wi-Fi if they have their district issued device?
I don't know,
Okay.
actually. All right, I don't have the answer to that one.
No worries. You could also, I mean,
I-
I would go ahead.
I
Somebody
would
was
say though, homework for me, I'm not a huge fan of that idea. Not because if a student truly doesn't understand what's happening or like hasn't gotten enough instruction to feel successful, then what's going to happen at home? Are they just going to keep trying things that they don't know well anyway, and so it's just going to frustrate them further, or they're going to practice the wrong thing that's not going to help them, or they're going to show mom and dad, and mom and dad are going to take some pictures, and then it goes on the internet, and then goodbye testlets.
I was going to ask, I know that at Central we test map testing on the laptops because iPads uniformly didn't have the DRC before. Is that, Arjun, I'm just bringing that up because I don't know enough to know if they're going to be able to even use this at Central Middle without using PDF versions.
The iPads are supposed to be compatible with DRC, and our digital learning team will need to attend to that if they are in fact not already installed. Did you guys use Chromebooks last year for MAP, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So we'll have to figure out a workaround because I know that a lot of our schools are now iPad schools, so we're going to need to get this to make sure it's accessible via iPad. I know that it should be.
Isn't the map also given this year on the DRC? So if it's not compatible, then how are we supposed to get map? So we should probably tackle that before map comes around. We end up with a conundrum.
Most definitely. Last year we had that issue arise because a lot of our schools were new iPad schools and we're having a lot of technical difficulties getting get the DRC Insight portal on the iPads. So my expectation was that our tech team will have resolved that by now. And this is, honestly, frankly, this is another, feather in the cap of the MITS is like to help us work out some of these testing kinks as we move our district towards more and more technology enhanced.
Yeah, all good points. Like it's really a good way to like kind of have a test run of how the DRC works. But it also, as a teacher, allows you to have a lot more flexibility in that like when you see problems over a student's shoulder when you're doing testing, you aren't supposed to instruct to that, right? But this is a point where when you see some of these testing items, you're able to then take this and use it in your classroom to help you understand like what does a high quality item look like, and maybe kids just aren't seeing the rigor in some of the questions that they're seeing in curriculum that they're going to see on the test, and how you address that and allow for that instruction to happen.
I just want to underline one more thing. As this is in all map tested grades, I believe 3 through 8, is that right? And it's in content areas, science, ELA, and math. So everything that our kids take map test on, this covers. So, the various departments in our school district, the various content areas, not everybody is, seeing the value in this. I think that the math department has an opportunity to use this and figure out what's going to work for us, kind of do a trial run with it. So if there are teachers who are definitely interested, I can work more closely to support to make sure you get that opportunity. So Brenna, you have your hand up. Go ahead, please.
I was just about to ask, so should we share with like our other teachers at our school about this? Like, because I don't know if they're getting information about this in their their PDs today. And I know I work with like the third, fourth, and fifth grade math teacher at my school, so I know they'd be interested in this. So it's okay to share with them.
Oh yeah, 100%. So
Okay.
DRC, it's all open, it's all shared. All of the testing coordinators were invited to a training where they were supposed to learn about what these are. So this is us telling you, share, 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 share. If you know someone who's a reading teacher, share with them. If you know someone who's a science teacher, share with them. Because the reason we created these was for teachers and for you
Yeah.
guys to use them. And so, like Arjun said, this is a pilot year, kind of unofficial, but official. And that the more you guys use them and the more feedback we can get, then we can change them and make them better. So we can't do that if no one uses them. So please do share.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Now, just as a caveat to that, while the state is please do share, KCPS is maybe a little more hesitant. I'm not sure what the other content area leads are thinking about this, and I'm not sure what principals are thinking about this, but I know the assessment department is maybe feeling a little bit of challenge about implementation. And so there is going to be kinks in the road and things we don't anticipate. So I would encourage you, for instance, or the teacher you referenced, really anybody who sees the value and wants to try to make sure you're, on the front lines of that. And I will definitely be right behind you with it. But again, there will be no mandate from the school district about this. You got a question. When will this be available to use in the classroom?
So they're all available right now. They've been available since just after Thanksgiving. So all of this is available.
Arjun, do we have to load our classes or do we have to have permission to load our classes or are they already loaded?
That is the major point of contention right now. Assessment department is, and I would please don't go sharing this with everybody, but assessment department is maybe a little hesitant to populate the students. I will do that manually in the event that they are not willing to. Whatever, no big deal. I'll take care of it. So I will
Would
do
you
that.
would
I
you
can do that.
please populate all of Paseo 7 to 8, including our Algebra 1, please?
Yep.
Yeah, the same thing for King. I was gonna ask you if I could do it. I'll just do it myself, take it off your hands if you need me to.
So you have to have like a specific account privileges, which I only just got once this came out and advocated to get it. So I'll take care of it. And yeah, be happy to meet with individual teachers or for whole departments. For if you're if you work in K5, Dr. Murphy is also looped in on this, and she is, I think, on board. So we're definitely gonna be able to get this going. I see a lot of people in the chat box saying my school, my school, my school. Absolutely. My thing is my district. We should be, the math department should be on the cutting edge of this and let ELA and science, figure out how great it is after we've proved how great it is, and how useful this can be for our classrooms. So I really appreciate all your enthusiasm, everyone, and more information to come for sure. Training on how to access the platform, how to score the performance events, how to get the test tickets, etc. All those things, more training to be sure. And I'm really grateful for all the enthusiasm. Other questions?
Arjun, now, will you let us know when our classes are populated? And next of all, is it like common sense, we can log ourselves in and kind of figure it out? Or is the PD required?
So when the kiddos get their login, so it's like, let's say Bob will have like the same username and password every time he uses it for the testlets. And then once they get in there, then like for 6th grade, every testlet will appear. So then you just tell your class, hey, today we're going to do testlet 5. Everybody get your login, raise your hand when you're finished. Okay, everyone find testlet number 5. Everybody click on testlet number 5, and then you go from there. So it's kind of like you direct the kids. It's so it's not necessarily that each you don't have to have like a special login each time. It's just every one of them will be available. So once the kids are into that initial system, then once you have that initial login and password, then they have access to all the testlets.
And there's a
know.
question. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I know at Paseo, we like to kind of jump in and kind of figure it out. We have guinea pig kids that will work through it with us and see if we actually like it for the kids before we throw it to everybody. So I just didn't know how long or how soon we could get in to play with it, or if we had to wait.
So I
So
am
that
not
would be up to
okay.
Arjun. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you guys have if KCPS teachers have like credentials for this website, but this is the login page for DRC Direct for us to like manage rosters. And I believe this is also going to be where you do the hand scoring of items. I think that's once you log in, but students will access it. I don't know if you guys recall, but when you are not logged into a Chromebook, you hit the apps button and then you hit DRC Insight, and that's going to be how they access. And then we'll score from that login page. So, Ashley, you asked about getting access to the website. I'm not 100% sure if individuals will have a sign in. So, kind of forthcoming. But I will definitely take note that you're interested, Ashley, and everybody else as well, and we'll get this launched.
And just know that I'm here to cheer for you. So if you try things and you're like, yay, they were great, woo! And if they don't, like, please give me feedback, because that's the only way we make these better. And they're meant to be for you guys as teachers to help you in what you do and help make your lives a little bit easier maybe, and give you just another tool that help you do what you need to do. So, and I think the only other thing I was going to touch on, Arjun, was just I want to give a plug for our item writing and our assessment development. So if all of you are educators, clearly, so if you want to be part of what our state does with our assessment, so Missouri's really unique in that we require, as for state law, that all of our test items be written by educators in the state of Missouri. So they're not written by someone who isn't even a teacher off in some other state, but they're written by Missouri teachers, and we ask throughout the year for teachers to sign up to be part of this process. So item writing is coming up in February, and those ones are full. However, the next group is the content and bias review. And that would be great, especially if you're a new teacher. This is a great way for you to get your foot in the door of what item writing really is. We kind of like item writing itself, we kind of keep for like the more, not necessarily all veteran teachers, but majority of veteran teachers, so that we know the content really well and we know what kids need to know. But content and bias review is really for any teacher, where you are looking at the test items, you're deciding, is the content what it should be? Is it biased? Is there anything we need to change? And you're really like our last check before it gets into the hands of students. So if you're interested in that, you can go through Arjun or me, and you can email me and I can hook you up with how to sign up for those. They're just really good PD as teachers for you to get as into the state process and kind of find out like, what is it all about? What do we learn? It's really great. Yeah, you get a per diem, you get hotels, we feed you. So it's really great to just be part of the process. It helps you understand what goes into our state items and what goes into that state testing. I don't know. Arjun's been there several times. He could probably speak to its worth, but I just think it's great PD for any teacher. And the CBR happens in summer. So
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, I will, when I send the weekly update, probably tomorrow or Wednesday, I will include information on how to sign up. I will say that it's highly sought after. It's oftentimes that you won't get selected just because there's, hundreds of people who apply. But it's a really great opportunity to kind of learn a little bit more about how these tests are made, but then also really get a better sense of like vertical alignment. Just because I feel like you look at all 6-8 standards at once, and that normally just comes with just more experience. And this is just another great piece of experience for our teachers. Every year, KCPS sends multiple delegates. Just because we're such a large district, I feel like we're always prioritized. So for those of us who are interested in this opportunity, definitely check your email later this week for more information.
Oh, and Arjun, I just want to make sure everyone knows, though I don't know if you send teachers at KCPS, but there is a content meeting coming up that's math content meeting in Jeff City, February 18th, I believe. I'm going to say the wrong date. It is in Jeff City. It is February 18th, and it is all day. And that will be just a time with some PD, some activities, things like that. Some good information. Sam Otten is going to be there from Practice Driven PD to do a little bit more about his research in that bite-sized PD. And we'll do some really cool vertical looking at some cool models and how to leverage our mathematical models that can go across grade levels, like multiple grade levels, and how we can leverage what kids learn in elementary school and then pull it all the way through high school, and how we use one model to help kids increase their mathematical understanding. So
awesome.
And that's sign up online at the curriculum page, or I can put a link in the chat.
Yeah, could you put a link in the chat? That'd be great. Cool. All right. So Director Gardner, did you have more that you wanted to talk about?
I have like a smidgen, but I respect the fact that you all are like freezing and you have a billion inches of snow in Kansas City. We got like a skiff. I feel like we got really lucky down here by the lake. And I'm from Wyoming, so I was totally expecting like a foot of snow. And then I was like, oh, there's like 3 inches. This actually isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. The ice is new, though. I have to say, I have a lot of respect for all of you who grew up in places where your whole world becomes like a treacherous death trap of ice. That's exciting. So really the only other thing I have to share, let's see here. And this is like my new platform. This is my new, when we talk about standards, just a reminder that when we think about our standards and when we go about our teaching, just remember that when we talk about priority standards, it doesn't mean that we're eliminating the standards that don't make it into the starring roles. All standards should be taught and assessed and retaught and reassessed because we're gaining evidence of students' competency in the greater scheme of things. So, we don't miss the forest for the trees. When we look at our priority standards in Missouri across K-12, if we only taught those and we didn't teach any of the non-priority standards or supporting standards, then we create large gaps in student understanding and learning. So this is just a quick tab, and I was going to have us look at PLDs, and I have some really great things, but I didn't get to bring them to show you guys. But just thinking about, and maybe if we can come back, I can bring my PLDs and we can talk about what proficiency means and looking at our domains and talking about domain proficiency rather than individual proficiency in our priority standards. So kind of thinking like when I look at those Missouri instructional testlets, when I think about proficiency, I'm thinking about how are my kids proficient in equalities, equations, and expressions. I'm thinking about that domain of how does my student do, not with just one of my priority standards in that domain, but overall those domains, and looking at those pieces, helping us make sure that we're thinking about math as an umbrella of skills that all are interconnected rather than individual skills that we try to reach priority in. And then fostering mathematical practices. How do we do that? So here they are. There's 8 of them. Yeah, I was like, wait, did I count wrong? So there are 8 mathematical practices. I have a really cool, handy dandy bookmark I have made. It's like a 2-sided half sheet, and I will bring them to you guys when I come to Kansas City when it's not snowing. Where one of the ways that we get kids to proficiency is by fostering those mathematical practices. So making sure that we're not just teaching isolated skills, but using our teaching to help kids do all of these things. And so when we look at those, we help our kids get that greater understanding of mathematics, because we want the conceptual understanding of mathematics to match their skills. We don't want kids who can just do that surface layer of, problems or procedures without that deeper understanding of their mathematical practices. So anyway, here's a fun thing. I don't know how many of you, when we talked about that practice-driven PD, another great idea is number talks for middle schoolers. And this is a really great slide deck, number talks for middle schoolers, that really talks about how we strengthen a whole bunch. There are like 6 practices I picked out of the 8 that are strengthened by using number talks. So computational fluency helps our students have those accurate methods, and we use that flexibility and understanding the methods we choose, why we use them. And so number talks are a really great way to have kids start thinking about things in a different way, have kids visualize and think about our mathematics and use all of those practices. So there's 2 links in this, and I'll share the slideshow, and then Arjun can put it maybe in an email where everybody has access to it. But there's number talks in middle school, and then visual patterns, and thinking about how when we ask kids to think about things, we want to really think about not just asking them to get to an answer, but really honoring that thinking that's happening, where kids aren't just skipping forward to get to the answer bit, but really honoring the process that we have to go through while we think about and wrestle with these mathematical ideas. And Jo Boler has a really great video where she kind of talks about visual patterns. And let's see, I think I had it linked. Let's see if I can copy this. I don't want to remove it. And I will put it in the chat for those of you who would like to go and watch an informational video. But it's really interesting because she talks about visual patterns and how we start to build equations and things from visual patterns. But she does this really great piece in the middle that talks about where, like, the kids they see the first 3 and then they skip right to this equation rather than understanding why. Like, so they get to the conclusion that it's squared, but then when you ask them why, no one really understands. But then when you take the blocks and you flip them, you see that it makes a square. But it's like so it's like we skip that visualization of patterns that help us understand our world and understand that algebraic thinking. And we just get to that like abstract equation bit without really fostering that thinking of like, oh, that's why it's squared, and on honoring that process, not just the answer. So thank you all. Be safe. I don't know if Kansas City Public is going to have school tomorrow, but golly, that's a lot of snow. So have fun.
Awesome. Thank you so, so much. We will definitely be in touch and would love to have you back. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, I would love to share the mathematical practices things with you because I worked so hard to make them like pretty and cute, but I can't post them yet because I haven't went through, they're not like all the things. I have to go through communications to get them posted on the website, but I can give you the physical copies. So I'll have to come so you can have my physical copies.
I had a quick question. So
Yes, ma'am.
I totally understand honoring the system. I mean, of, teaching the kids all the steps and not just, hey, this is the end. My problem is now that we've given these kids the calculators, I feel like there's a lot of steps that are missed with the visualization and actually seeing the process because all they're doing is punching numbers into the calculator.
I really agree with that. There are times, right? So we have to think about like what we're going for. There are times when cognitive load can be lessened by using a calculator. There are times when I want a student to be thinking about something else, so I can give them a calculator to help them like lessen that cognitive load, so they have more ability to think about the problem solving bit of what's happening. So I really think it's about our intention as teachers when we give them any tool, right? Part of our mathematical practices is knowing when to use tools effectively. And so same thing with teaching, we teach them when is it a good time to use your calculator? When is it not a good time? And really helping them focus on those, like what is our task? If my task is a really difficult problem solving task that I'm having them do some really hard thinking about, and I want them to be accurate with their calculations, I'm going to give them a calculator because I don't want that to be what dissolves their thinking. But there are times when I do need to have access to or the ability to do these calculations myself. So it's like a balance, if that makes sense. But it's about helping kids, like mathematically speaking, as like a system. Mathematics has, for far too long, awarded the kids who get to this magical finish line of knowing a process rather than understanding the concepts behind the process.
Right.
So we have honored those kids who learn how to do, whatever skill. Once it gets to abstract, it's like, oh, that's the finish line. You've done it. And we don't talk about how, when we don't have that conceptual understanding and the ability to visualize and conceptualize our mathematics, without that, those kids who are on abstract island often are the kids who, when they're in upper level mathematics and algebra 2, algebra, geometry, really start to tank because they have no understanding of why any of these things work.
Right.
So it's like so it's like as mathematicians and as teachers, how can we encourage kids that like, yes, there is a time for models. Yes, there's a time, like, heck, we have fingers, here they are. Why not use them all the time?
Right.
Who cares? Who cares if it's a little slower? I really don't care. I would rather kids use these things that help them all day long than I would to take them away because I've decided that no, just numbers are the okay way to do math. Like, that's not truly what mathematics is about. It's about the processes and the understanding and the conceptual. And when we, just like when we hear about reading and we hear how when kids are taught to read too early, right, it can be detrimental to their eventual ability to read. And it's the same thing with mathematics. We have made these decisions about when kids need to stop using manipulatives or how many times we get to model, but that's not true for all kids. And some kids really do need a lot more time spent in the model or conceptual phases than they're allowed. So how do we as teachers help honor that and help kids learn that, yes, there's this thing, there's this abstract model we want to get to, but how do we honor those kids who have to spend more time in those conceptual understandings to get there?
Exactly. Well, it's like I don't mind giving them a calculator when I'm doing something with pi. That gets a little crazy for them. I totally get that. But there's other things, it's just like, wait a minute, can't we look at the pieces and, like you say, the model and what this is really doing before I hand out these calculators? And they look at me, oh, you're just making us work too hard. No.
Productive Struggle. It's a great book, and it really talks about how, like, when is it good to ask kids to struggle mathematically, right? And what our greater goal is. We really, as teachers, have to think about, like, what do I want them to struggle with? Which pieces are worth it? And on different days, it will be different things as we work through our content.
Oh, I totally hope we get to do a book study. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Any other questions, comments? Is that a question, Alanis, or is that what do you mean there's no school?
No, we just got the
We
email.
just sent it.
Oh, crazy. Nice. Very cool.
You're lucky. I have gotten no calls. My children will sadly probably be in school. They'll be thrilled.
Super. So I think that that's a very positive note to leave things, but don't just leave just yet. We have a few things to wrap up. So first, I just want to extend Director Gardner. Thank you so much, Tracy, just for coming to speak with us. And we're just really grateful for your time, and we hope to see you again. We'll keep you updated on how things, roll out. So that's the first thing I would say. The second piece is that I'm going to drop into the chat box the link to the PDF version of the MITs. But before I do that, I just want to reiterate that these are not to be shared with our students, with our families. These are not for public consumption. These are certainly for us to use and to take a look at what these testing kind of features or what these tests might look like. So here they are. They're downloaded as PDFs, Math 6 through 8. So definitely even if you don't end up like using the MITs themselves, these are a worthwhile experience for you to go through to see what a high quality test item looks like. And again, not teach to them, but use them to help inform your instructional practices. So that's the first piece. Those are the links for the PDFs. And then finally, I'm going to put into the chat box the link for the survey. This is also your attendance. So really critical that you complete this survey. And in addition to that, the survey will be sent out via email. So the first link is going to be the PDF to the testlets. And the second link is going to be the survey. So really important that you get the survey done because, again, it has your attendance included there. All right. Yeah. So once you have finished your attendance survey, you guys, I hope you enjoy your snow day tomorrow. Is it AMI or is it no school?
No school.
Just no school? Just straight up no school? Oh,
Yeah,
heck
straight
yeah,
up no
brother.
school.
All right. Well, I hope you guys love that. I'll be available because I'll be working. Anyway, so if you need anything, whatever, please let me know. And like I said, please complete the survey. But once you're done with the survey, you guys have a beautiful night, a beautiful day, and a great day tomorrow. Let me know if there's anything I can do for you. And again, one more time, thank you, Director Gardner.
Hey, Arjun.
Yeah, go for it. Bria, what's up?
It's saying that we have to. I requested access to that Google form for the survey.
Oh, so
You have to use your school.
My laptop.
Email.
Okay, well, Arjun, I can't complete it then because my computer is at school. It's been there since break.
smart. No worries. I can fill it out for you, or you can just fill it out whenever you get your laptop. No worries.
Okay. We probably won't go back to school till what, Wednesday or Thursday?
I don't know.
If you can, I don't know either. If you want to fill it out, that's fine. If not, just send me an email so I can remember to fill it out. My email is just bwashington.
Oh, okay.
'Cause
Yeah.
I can't get in my email from my phone or my personal.
Okay. For sure. I will make a note and email you and follow up with email. Okay.
Okay, thanks, Arjun.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. So I'm seeing several questions. So first off, the survey is not tracking our emails. Yeah, that is accurate. Well, I have it recorded, so I'll have attendance that way. Good call, Beckett. So we're good. Testlets on Pear Deck. I think that was answered. And then also, if you're still here, Bree, you can access via the web version of Outlook, which again, I'll include in the email to you, to both email addresses, your personal and otherwise.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. No problem.
We free to leave?
Yes, absolutely. Once you completed the survey, or in your case, I'll email you the survey in just a moment.
Okay, cool. Have a good day, everybody.
You too. Thank you so much.
Okay, the Pear Deck question was answered. What was the answer?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Do not put them on Pear Deck, please.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Alanis. You guys take care. Enjoy the snow day. Bye, everybody.
Can I put it in a PowerPoint that I do not share with the students? It's strictly mine.
I would say yes, but I'll defer to Director Gardner if she's still on the call.
Have a safe evening.
Bye, Ms. Rogers. Thank you. Yes, Ms. Corum. I mean, as long as you're not distributing them outside of KCPS students and other teachers, then I would say yes, definitely. I think the problem with Pear Deck is that once we put them on Pear Deck, then they're there. And they're accessible by the people who run Pear Deck and other things. Please email me the information. Yes, I can do that for sure.
Well, I was just thinking if I could put it up on the one screen that I only put up and don't share, then that way I can use it to start off a new unit or something.
Absolutely, 100%. You could definitely open up the PDF and screen snip one or two questions or put the whole thing up there, however you want to do it. You can display it to your kids in any way that I think is going to be generally secure. So,
Perfect. All right. Thank you. I'll go get started reading them.
cool. Very cool.
Bye.
Bye. Take care. Thank you. All
Hey,
right.
Arza.
Yes. What's up?
Not much. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Life's all right. I hope you had a good, holidays, Christmas, everything was good. New Year's is good, I hope.
Oh yes, it goes by fast, right?
It
So I'm
does.
living.
This little bonus day is not, I'm not mad at it though.
Oh, I'm not mad at it either. So I'm surviving on my phone on this thing. So I got the survey done, which is
Mhm.
great. And then I'm trying to do the DRC, which I can't even. I'm not even going to bother trying to look at through the phone. But you know how we do that mock map practice when we get back
The
with the
OTT, online tools training. Yep.
yes, with the DRC. Is that gonna? We're gonna try to phase that out with this, or is that just like let's just quietly do that, or go hand in hand, or
Yeah,
we
that's
haven't even thought that far yet?
I don't have the answer to that, so I would lean on the we haven't thought that far. But I think that if your kids are getting significant at bats using the testlets, then the online tools training will be redundant. First, it doesn't score, right? So there's no way to know how kids did on the online tools training. And secondly, if you're giving them the testlets or if you're leading them through the testlets, then you're showing them how to use those tools. They're getting the practice.
Exactly. And that was kind of where I was getting at, is because those you only get like what 6, 8 questions, and those kind of run its course after that first week. No matter if I use one question for 2 days,
Mhm.
I can go through the cognitive load, I can do all that stuff, but I can only stretch that so far and get really value out of it before I start hunting other things down and using the myth stuff as a slideshow on the overhead, or using it as your task attack or your daily to do kind of inner helps with that load too. So I can spend more than just 4 weeks or 5 weeks and have quality time with that. So that's all I was thinking, is if I can just infill that.
Perfect. Thank you, James. Appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. Have a good one.
You too. Take care. Coach Mac, Ms. Zubia, everything okay?